Sports Auto Racing team is in Las Vegas, Nevada with the Indy Racing League ready for the Indy Racing League Las Vegas 500K. And the engines have just started here at this magnificent new facility. Much of it still under construction. It's many different kinds of racetracks, but today we're going to focus on the mile-and-a-half oval. Hello and welcome. I'm Paul Page with Danny Sullivan and Bobby Unser. So great to be here with you. Sun shining here in the desert. We're looking forward to a terrific day, and this track is magnificent. It's going to be good racing.
It's an unbelievable. It's a tri-oval, 12-degree banking in the corner, 9-degree on the front straightaway, and very, very wide.
And other than the fact, Danny, that it's been dirty because it's just been freshly constructed, it's going to be raced today at 3 abreast, 3 wide, which means we're going to see some of the best racing, I think, that we've seen all year.
One thing that we have seen here is blinding speeds thus far.
Well, in practice, Arie Luyendyk led the field, as he did in the race, for qualifying at 230 miles an hour.
That's fast, but Danny, Paul, they won't run that fast in the race, at least all the time, because if they did, you know, they qualify wide open around here, and if they did, it's going to be too hard on the engine. If they're going to back off just a little bit, I think at the end of each straightaway to save it.
And there is the man that has been the fastest. Manager awarded a check for $10,000 to Brad. True Value, the official hardware store of the Indy Racing League. There's Arie. And there is the award of the check. And that means that the pole position, of course, goes to Arie Luyendyk. He won the race here in Phoenix, or at the Phoenix, for the pole position. And as we take a look at the front row, alongside will be Tony Stewart. First start with the Indy Racing League. And Buddy Lazier, the 96 Indy 500 winner. In the third row, Davey Hamilton. This is his best starting position for the driver from Idaho. Alongside, it'll be Mike Groff. In row 4, Scott Sharp, the winner of the season opener at Loudon, and Richie Hearn, who finished third at the Indy 500. In row 5, Roberto Carrillo. In row 6, Johnny O'Connell and John Paul Jr. In row 7, Eliseo Salazar and Tice Carlson. In row 8, Robbie Buell and Buzz Calkins, the winner of the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World. In the 9th row, Johnny Parsons Jr. and Michele Alboreto. In row 10, Jim Guthrie and Johnny Unser. The 11th row, Stan Waddles and Michel Jourdain Jr. In row 12, Alfonso Giafoni from Indy Lights and Marco Greco. In the 13th row, Stefan Gregoire and Brad Murphy. And the 14th row, Eddie Cheever and Juan Carlos Carbonell. There's the track, and the corners, the banking at 12 degrees in the corners, very, very wide as we go to Jackal Route.
Paul, we're breaking into some new territory, as you say, 1.5 miles around. Instead of the normal 3 anticipated pit stops, figure that they might have to go as many as 4. One added plus, though, the wing configuration here, because of the size of the racetrack, these teams are getting as much as 2 miles per gallon in lieu of the mandated 1.8. So we're going to have to stay on top of fuel consumption. Let's check in with Gary.
End of an era today, Jack, for John Menard and the Menard Racing Team. For a decade now, they've worked what initially was a stock block Buick power plant into their own mark, the Menard engine. But of course, the rules change after this race. It'll no longer be part of the racing scene in the Indy Racing League. John Menard has never experienced victory with this new setup, with this engine. Today, with Mark Dismore and Tony Stewart, they know they've been competitive in every event. They want so much to end this era with a triumph. Paul?
Well, when you spend that much time and money and dedication, that would be a wonderful victory for them here today. We'll keep an eye on both of those cars. There's your front row. Arie Luyendyk on the pole. And, of course, Tony Stewart outside the front row. Rest of the field coming through. Our attention being diverted a little. The first turn, the winds have picked up here, and there's a lot of dust beginning to blow across the corner. So don't take that wrong, because it's on the outside of the corner. Now the green flag goes, and here we are as Arie Luyendyk jumps into the lead. Robbie Gordon drops into third place. There's Buddy Lazier.
Now there was something that really surprised me. Tony Stewart, who starts so many dirt tracks, sprint car midget races, got beat to the starting line by Arie Luyendyk.
And now Robbie Gordon Gordon makes a move on Tony Stewart, and Gordon coming down low gets into second place.
Stewart's obviously got his power turned back too far. He's not up to full power yet, because remember that Menard mark probably make at least 100 more horsepower than the other one.
That's Buddy Lazier beginning to close now on Tony Stewart.
Remember, that's the two guys that had the confrontation up in New Hampshire when we had the IRL race up there, Paul.
Lyondike, Gordon, Stewart, Buddy Lazier, Mike Croft, John Paul Jr., then Richie Hearn and Scott Sharp. That's the order.
Looks like to me Robbie Gordon wants to get up to the front as fast as he possibly can.
Well, you know, Danny, Robbie Gordon comes from kart, and he's over here running IRL. Of course, something that we were kind of surprised to see, although we're happy to see. He's going to be trying to prove a point today, I think.
Well, I think he might be trying to prove a point, but I talked to Derek Walker, and I know they want to come away with some points from here so that they qualify for the Indianapolis 500.
Second place, Robbie Gordon, closing on the leader jackaroo.
Well, Robbie Gordon is one of those drivers that's going to attempt to go and make this race in only 3 stops. That means that he's going to have to use a little bit of fuel conservation. I talked to Derek Walker. He said, we need some full force yellows, not all at once, but within each segment. Remember, you've got to go at least 50 laps before you take on fuel if you hope to make it to 3.
Top of the screen, you can see 4 laps of the 200 complete and the interval back from the leaders. 0.3 of a second for Robbie Gordon in his closure on Arie Luyendyk.
You can obviously see right there that Robbie Gordon is getting a little bit of a draft right on Luyendyk, who's leading the car. On the red and white one is Luyendyk, the blue and white one, of course, Robbie Gordon.
Looks like right there he's going to make the move. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I guess I was a little bit wrong on that, Danny.
Robbie Gordon closes in, looks for a high lane. Notice this track is so wide, and with the banking, there are several grooves. Robbie pulled up, made a try, didn't work for him. By the way, Davey Hamilton started 5th. He's dropped back through the field to 21st.
Yeah, it also could be what Robbie was doing is he didn't feel maybe that Arie was running quite as fast as he thought he should be running. That could have just been a wake-up call.
Well, if it did, Arie looks like he woke up, but I think he might have lost a little bit of air there, too, when he tried to go through Bobby, and he probably disturbed the front end of the car a little bit. Wants to be a little cautious. This is early on in a 200-lap race.
Awfully early to be pushing too hard.
We're going to open up Robbie Gordon's radio, and we'll just continue to listen to it today. And look at the leaders already catching the back of the field. That's Brad Murphy, the purple car up high. Look at Robbie. Gets way up into the dust.
Now, that's that dirt that I was talking about in the opening. It's up there. Now, as the race goes on, and more cars run up there, they'll clean that off a little bit. But it's because there's so much dirt and mud embedded into the pavement because the track is good.
Did you hear Derek Walker right there very faintly in the back? He said, be patient. Look at Robbie. He's having trouble in the traffic. Tony Stewart here is taking a look around the outside.
Well, Stewart's been running the banks a lot of times. He's used to running up high. It wouldn't be anything new for him.
No, but I think Robbie got snookered there a little bit in the traffic. And once you lift off, we got a yellow.
Yellow comes out as Stewart was able to move around Gordon and pick up the lead of the race. So Luyendyk, the rest of the field will slow. Quick little bounce off of the wall. And that's Johnny Parsons Jr. looks like. So we have our first yellow here. And Luyendyk slows the field as Gordon had to give up second place to Tony Stewart, who picked the momentum up. So they will bunch up once again. And indication from observers on the course is that he may have blown the engine before. Yeah, look at that. He's saying the engine went just before the spin. Johnny Parsons wanted to make sure we all knew exactly what was going on. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
The Indy Racing League at Las Vegas. This ABC Sports exclusive brought to you by Pennzoil Motor Oil. First to fully achieve the tougher 1997 GF2 performance standard. True Value, official hardware store of IRL and garages everywhere. Goodyear, #1 in tires. And Regal by Buick, the fine line between sport and sedan.
We're still under yellow because of Johnny Parsons Jr. brush with the wall. Tonight on ABC starts with an hour of America's Funniest Home Videos, and then Sandra Bullock, Demi Moore, and Courtney Love guest on the Barbara Walters special, and Denzel Washington and Emmy winner John Lithgow star in the Sunday night movie Ricochet. That's all tonight here on ABC. Let's go to Jack.
Well, Davey Hamilton and A.J. Foyt's car is a little bit disappointed at this time. Best starting spot, 5th position today, but the engine would not make any revs right from the drop of the green flag. They've lifted the rear cowling and the side cowling. What they're going to do, guys, is they're going to troubleshoot now through the electrical. Here's the other problem that Davey Hamilton has. They're sure that's an electrical problem because his dashboard is dead as well. So let's go back to Paul.
So there's Davey Hamilton's car, and keeping track of some other people in the field. John Paul Jr. started in 12th and now runs in 5th position. Well, now there was to keep track there of Buddy Lazier and Johnny Unser as they follow the pace car under the yellow. And there's John Paul back there. It's John Paul Jr. with the flags on the front of the car. So it's Lyondike, Stewart, who got around Gordon for 2nd place. Gordon in 3rd. Buddy Lazier is in 4th. We'll be right back. We're back in Las Vegas under a caution. That's for Johnny Parsons Jr. while they clean up the course. Notice in 5th place there is John Paul Jr. Started 12th, now 5th. Let's go down pit road. Gary Gerald.
Paul, we're watching Tony Stewart. We're down here in the Menard camp. He has radioed to Larry Curry that he likes the balance of the race car. That is so good for Tony Stewart because remember what he did in the last IRL event at Loudon, New Hampshire when he just ran away from the field. He had amazing speed in the corner because the car was balanced so good. He's that happy early. Also, this yellow is helping them conserve fuel. But unlike the other teams who are getting good fuel mileage, the Menard is notoriously bad. Larry Curry said, we're planning a 4-stop race. Other teams are hoping to do it in 3. Menard knows they have to do it in 4. This yellow helps them, but they still need 8 laps of yellow to be able to do a 4-stop race. That's how concerned they are about fuel. Jack?
Gary, down here in the leader's pit, Ari Lyondike says his car is pushing just a little bit, so he's not happy with the initial balance on the car. They will wait to make an adjustment on their first stop. It's extremely important for Lyondike as well because he is running a race of fuel conservation as well. This team hopes to make it in only 3. Paul?
Well, and when Johnny Parsons Jr. had the engine let go, it laid down a lot of oil through turn 3 and all the way up into turn 4 where he finally got in the wall. So they're having to clean that off, and they want to do the best possible job in doing so. Ari Lyondike will lead the field back, followed by Stewart and Gordon.
Well, one of the things is I think these strategies, 3 and 4, Bobby, you can comment on this. I think that's all going to go out of the window with the yellows because I think if they
it'll change it.
Certain times, you're going to have to be scrambling all race long to readjust your strategy.
You know, Danny, I was talking to Tony Stewart and Larry Curry yesterday, and race strategies, and one of the things that they're going to try to do with the Menard engine that we know doesn't do too well on fuel mileage is to roll out of the gas about halfway going into the turns. Now, if we remember up in Loudon, New Hampshire, that's where Tony really beat everybody, was going into the turns. So in order to make it fuel-wise here, he's going to roll out of the throttle maybe halfway. Now, it's not going to be completely backing out, but halfway, and this will really help with his mileage. And they'll see after their first pit stop whether it helped or not. But, of course, this yellow has messed all that up, as you said.
Well, that helped. And, sorry, Jack, that helps him the best of all because he's conserving so much fuel right now.
The other factor, Danny, that we're talking about that we're concerned about is tire conservation. Both teams, both Firestone and Goodyear, are a little bit concerned about tire wear. Why? Because they say they're pulling as much as 4 Gs in the corners, and under full loads, they're not real sure how these tires will perform. Paul?
Well, last night, they had, in typical Las Vegas style, an unveiling of the new cars for the Indy Racing League. They were over at the MGM, put them up in the boxing ring. The Delore on the left, the G-Force on the right. Those are the cars that they will run the next race when they come back next year to Walt Disney World. Gary Gerald took a closer look at them.
And the cars we've become accustomed to seeing in years gone by is found right behind the cockpit.
It's this air induction box here where air is jammed into the engine. Keeping in mind now that the new power plants for these cars are naturally aspirated, non-turbocharged. So no longer will you see the familiar pop-off valve sticking up through the bodywork right here. It's a 4-liter engine under here, a little bigger, a little heavier than we've had in the past, but with no turbocharger and no wastegate, that weight is offset. We're going to drop the horsepower by about 200 to the 675 range. A subtle change not so easily seen under the car. Simplified underwing, straight lines. It'll reduce downforce 20 to 25%. Fuel capacity from 40 down to 35 gallons in the fuel cell. Here in the cockpit, about 3 inches wider, a little bit higher on the sides for safety. They'll use crushable material around the driver's helmet to immobilize his head in the event of contact. Now, as far as the rules makers are concerned, they've left the suspension pretty much up to the design team, so you'll find subtle differences between the G-Force and the Dallara on each corner of the car in terms of the actual suspension. Also, some changes in terms of the gearbox. So they drop the horsepower, they reduce the downforce. They think they're going to slow these cars down by about 15 miles per hour, and IRL officials believe that'll lead to tighter, more competitive racing. Price tag, either one of these chassis, rolling, no engine, $263,000.
Well, Gary, this is a brand new Infiniti that was introduced to the dealers just this week. The engine is the exact same based engine that'll be used for the Indy Racing League in 1997. Take a look at it in racing configuration. It actually is going to use a lot of the same parts that car has. They'll be on an Indy Racing League car and engine next year. Paul?
And the turbocharger will be gone. Pop-off valve will be gone. Las Vegas Boulevard, just outside of the racetrack. That's the traffic still trying to get in here. Not because of any problem with the track getting the traffic in. It's just that big a group of people trying to get in both here and on the freeway, which is just on the backside of the track. An enormous line. It's Nellis Air Force Base just across the street, literally, from the track here. So from time to time, we'll see Air Force fighters lifting off from the surface there. So about everything you could want. Great racetrack, the IRL, and, of course, the fighter jets on the far side. Danny, you and I are probably going to move here, right?
I like the view, especially where we're sitting. I think we're about to go green right now as well.
They pick up the speed as Ari Lyndike will lead Stewart, Gordon, Lazier, John Paul Jr., and Mike Croft back to the line. Focus, of course, is on Tony Stewart, who got around Mike Croft just before the yellow came out for Johnny Parsons Jr. You saw that Johnny Parsons was okay after hitting the wall and blowing his engine. And he's already been checked over by the medical folks, and hopefully we'll be talking to him here shortly. Once again, I'll tell you what, Lyndike really is able to jump out. Here comes Gordon around Stewart. Stewart gets caught in traffic. John Paul Jr. gets caught behind him. Lazier comes around. John Paul Jr. down on the low side.
Stewart's really getting bad starts. He's in something wrong with his turbo's not coming up to pressure right away.
I don't know. I think Ari maybe played it pretty smart there. Tony took a run at him, and Ari kept going slow, and he had to back out of it, and then it looked like Ari took off.
And he just doesn't have any horsepower. The other cars passed Tony also, and now at Menard, making 100, 150 more horsepower than the others, really should jump him at the start and outrun him. Should have led the race, really.
Yeah, it seems like it's taking him a long time to get up to speed. Look at this. John Paul Jr. going right under Buddy Lazier.
John Paul Jr. takes Lazier, moves into third place. At the same time, a little further back, and you got a glimpse of it for a second, with Scott Sharp and Roberto Guerrero. They came around Richie Hearn, and they moved into 7th and 8th. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
For Tony Stewart on the restart, Larry Curry not happy. He said, we simply didn't know they were going green. They didn't tell us until they were deep into turn 4. So they're a little unhappy, the fact that they had a lack of information. That's why Stewart was lagging on the restart.
Yeah, but he dropped more than that. The question is there some other issue there?
No, there definitely is. He's just not getting his turbo pressure up for some reason. But, you know, when we watch the slower cars, or not slower cars, but the different guys like John Paul come up and make so many position gains, remember, each team is negotiating and planning between 3 and or 4 pit stops for this race. So different ones have different ideas right now on how their race is going to go.
Well, and here comes Stewart. Back moving forward as he comes around Buddy Lazier. That was Mike Croft, the white 10 car, that now is coming down alongside Lazier as well.
Pretty close racing right through that trial over there.
Groff has really been, Mike Groff in the white car on the left there, has really been fast. I've watched him all during practice. He's got the car set the way he wants. It sets on the racetrack real nice. And it looks like now he's starting to put it to good use during the race.
Well, look who's having a problem is that sort of purple-blue car of Buddy Lazier.
Yep.
These guys are going okay, but Buddy's just dropping spot after spot right there. Look, he just dropped 3 spots in that half a lap.
Just ahead of him is Richie Hearn, then Scott Sharp, then Roberto Guerrero. They're involved in a nice little fight. Sharp and Guerrero have been fighting rather consistently here.
And Denver, he's going right underneath him as well.
Yeah, so Buddy Lazier, the Indy 500 champion, with something obviously wrong with that car. This is the leader, with Robbie Gordon right behind him. Lyondike and Gordon over on the backstretch.
Now there's 2 guys with an awful lot of oval track experience right there.
And some pretty good wins under their belt as well. And of course, Robbie Gordon, he just finished his last IndyCar race. Now he's in an IRL. Then I think he's going to stock car racing this year, and he still has a championship to win in off-road trucks as well.
Yeah, he pretty well has that one wrapped up. So Lyondike up at the front of the field, Jackaroo.
And you should begin to see Lyondike.
Oh, right, just blew past them. Lyondike got caught up behind some slower traffic, and Robbie grabs the lead. So Robbie Gordon now the leader of the run.
Got him sleeping right there.
I think what you're going to see, guys, is now both Robbie Gordon and Ari Lyondike are going to run wide open. Our radio transmissions we listened to said go to green. Here's the reason why. Enough in this segment.
Lyondike back to the lead, Jack.
Sorry, Jack, but they're swapping spots left and right. Lyondike's now back in the lead. We didn't mean to interrupt your story.
Oh, Robbie.
Right along, you're doing great.
Robbie Gordon's radio, and I thought I heard the words, "This is dangerous," as he threads his way through traffic.
I know,
keep it open.
But that was Derek Walker came back on and said, "You're doing great."
And look at this. He passed him again. He's going back around Lyondike. What we're seeing here, Bobby, is traffic is dictating, I think, what's going on. If these guys have to lift out of it because they get behind the slow car, it changes a lot.
Danny, we're seeing 2 race drivers that are being stubborn right now. That's what
anytime you want, so just play it smart, real smart.
That's Derek Walker saying play it smart.
Whoa, car into the wall. 2 of them, big hit.
That looks like Buddy Lazier's car.
Well, we got to check the nose. It might be Murphy.
That's Murphy, I'm pretty sure.
And did you see one
Somebody
just went
nipped him
through?
there.
A red car went through and caught a tire down the back. I believe he nipped a tire, too.
The biggest problem is all the parts. Look at all
Yeah.
the parts that are laying there. That's the biggest single problem.
That left of your screen, that red car clipped a tire, I believe, when he went through it.
So 3 cars involved in this one. Eddie Cheever there.
Oh, Eddie, and he's got a new team. He started himself. He's got a team going. That's not the way he wanted to do his first race, is it?
Eddie just lost a valve during practice. They ruined an engine that way, and now to wreck the car, not a good day for him.
Stefan Gregoire climbs from his car. He's been incredibly fast. In fact, yesterday in practice, he white-walled a tire, and we thought, well, he'd be coming in right away. It went several laps without coming in. The USAC safety team is there with Eddie Cheever. It appears that he's okay, only they're taking a little bit of time and paying attention to his feet. You can see the nose is off of that car. Let's take a look at this one, Danny.
This is turn 2. Oh. You know, when it went up there, it looked like it was just one car, but obviously there's 2. Boy, a lot of debris there.
The debris is what really gets all the guys running behind there.
Yeah, they've already gotten tangled up here.
Well, watch as they come off the wall.
Now watch this tire, something right through there. Whoa, Gregoire just went through there. And
oh, he's lucky, Danny, on that tire. That was really lucky. Nothing worse than hit a rolling tire.
Yeah,
Another look.
But he had no choice. He had to thread it through there because he couldn't take a chance.
The cars touched right there. Danny and Paul, they touched. They locked up together and immediately went to the wall. But remember, that's well over 200 miles an hour, so it's instant to the wall.
So Brad Murphy and Eddie Cheever get together, and then Stefan Gregoire comes running through the middle of it. That brings out our second yellow of the day as the USAC crews try to clean up, and we'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. We're back at the Indy Racing League, the Las Vegas 500K. Now, we're under our second yellow. Brad Murphy, they are still working with his car, the USAC safety team right there. They've had the jaws of life out, and they have been working with that car. As yet, Murphy has not been taken out of the car. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, these are the tires that just came off of Buddy Lazier's car. What they're doing right now is they are trying to find a mysterious ailment on the race car itself. About 5 laps before the yellow came out, you saw Lazier making a run to the back, not to the front. He reported that the car was so loose, it tended to dart forward and lose control of the car. So far, they have not been able to find the problem. And Gary Gerald, that is not the way you want to be at the controls of a race car at over 200 miles an hour, not knowing what's wrong.
Absolutely, on any high-speed track. Here's a man who has just come in from out here. Well, we've got an emergency vehicle arriving. We're at the safety center, and the drivers from the last incident being brought in. Johnny Parsons had just been released. You lost an engine, we know, and then it got you up into the wall. Tell us about the conditions up to that particular point, and how tough is it, particular with visibility, sand, when you get outside the groove?
There was really no problem with visibility. The sand was, no effect on the track. We've been here all week getting acclimated to things. Really no problem at all, Gary. It's I just had to hold my line. We really got slowed down quite a bit in the Electech car. Even the Firestone tires can't work when oil's underneath the back of them, and so we got slowed down enough. It wasn't that bad.
Well, now, you get any kind of a feel for how this thing is going to unfold? Is it too early to know? You see anybody who's got muscle or power? Is this going to be an endurance test?
We've entered the race considering it's somewhat of a mini enduro, and there's a lot of good teams here with preparation. But you got some race drivers, that are up front, like Gordon and Leyendyke, are going to treat it like a sprint car race. And it's a small enough track and fast enough you could consider it a sprint car race. But we drivers are pretty fortunate after getting into the wall here and coming out in good shape. I hope Murphy's okay. We got guys in the hospital that run sprint cars this week. I want to say hi to Brad Marvel and hope those guys get well soon and get back out in circuit.
Thanks, John. Jack?
Well, Gary, your leader, Robbie Gordon, is not at all happy with the speed of the pace car. It's been an advertised speed, but Gordon is looking at his dash and seeing that the car is beginning to develop an overheating problem under these slow laps. He's back and forth frantically to Derek Walker, and I think if we listen in, you'll hear the calming influences of his crew chief, Derek Walker, saying, don't worry about it, don't worry about it.
Yeah, he's over on the backside of the race course, so we're not hearing the radio as clearly as we could. The 27 car, Jim Guthrie, they're going to penalize him, stop-and-go penalty for violation of the pit speed limit, which is 80 miles an hour here. Robbie Gordon will be the leader of the race on what looks like it's going to go quite a bit longer on yellow here. And you saw a moment ago the indication that Brad Murphy was out of the car being taken over to the ambulance. Now, tomorrow night, Al Michaels will host an action-packed, heart-stopping primetime special showcasing the greatest sports moments of all time. And I think you find A.J. Foyt will be part of that. And then Jim Kelly and the Buffalo Bills travel to Three Rivers Stadium to avenge last year's playoff loss against the AFC champion Pittsburgh Steelers on ABC's NFL Monday Night Football. That's all tomorrow night, right here on ABC. And on Brad Murphy, there they are loading him into the emergency vehicle out on the racetrack. We'll be back with more from Las Vegas.
We welcome you back to Las Vegas. A disgruntled and upset Eddie Cheever has just walked in and out of the medical center. You're obviously okay physically, but I know you're not happy with what happened. Can you tell us what happened?
I don't really know. All I know is that I started in the back of the grid. I was working my way up, and I got hit in the back by one of Helmgren's cars. I don't really know who it was. A stupid mistake. I really don't know what happened. Maybe he had a problem. I mean, there's a lot of room out there. There's no need whatsoever to run into the back of somebody. I'm very disappointed, and what else can I say? It's happened 3 times this year, and I'm getting real tired of it. But I guess that sort of stuff happens in racing. It's great to be here in Las Vegas. It's a beautiful facility, and I was looking forward to the race. My car was running well. We had some problems in qualifying, but we were going to the front, and I'm mad. Very mad.
Thank you. That's the story from Eddie Cheever, Paul.
Yeah, and here is Tony Stewart into the pits. They changed the tires, precautionary, of course, making sure with all of the debris that has ended up on...
Reset your fuel, reset your...
They're talking to Tony Stewart. We have his radio open.
Nice job, nice job.
And what Larry Curry's telling him is to richen his fuel up, getting out so the car doesn't, or so the engine doesn't stall.
Jack Arute?
Well, Paul, that stop's not surprising. Remember what a fuel guzzler the Menards are. Now, the leader of the race, Robbie Gordon, his team owner here, Derek Walker, you've been asking you, Zach, to make the pace car go a little faster. Why?
Well, the engines are getting a little too hot in this temperature at the speed we're going. We need the airspeed through the radiators to keep it cool, so we just wanted to step it up a little bit.
What about the scenario now? A lot of full course yellow, at least in this segment. Where does that put your first stop window?
Well, obviously we'll update it depending on how many yellows we get, but it's almost guaranteed if everything goes according to plan to be a 3-stop race now. We've had enough yellows, so we don't know exactly whether it's 50, 55, somewhere in that region.
Guys, I don't know. Sometimes I think that's an oxymoron if everything goes according to plan.
It certainly seldom goes according to plan. So now behind the pace car will be Robbie Gordon, then Arie Luyendyk, Mike Groff, Roberto Guerrero. We are waiting for word on Brad Murphy, also waiting to talk with Stefan Gregoire. Since we saw him almost hop and run out of the race car, we presume that he is okay, but we'll be waiting for official word. Again, when we go back green, Jim Guthrie will receive a stop-and-go penalty. Pit speed limit is 80 miles an hour. Observers reported him at 105 miles an hour going down the pits. That's not just breaking the speed limit.
Yeah, well, that's just slightly. They'll usually give you about 5 miles an hour, and then they get a little upset.
That sounds like Bobby on Interstate 15.
Yes, I mean...
Let's go to pit side and Gary Gerald.
Another driver just released, Stefan Gregoire. I know it was a very close call for you, threading your way through that debris.
Yes, it was impossible to me to pass through, you know. I had only one way to go, and it was between both cars, and it was not enough room to go through, and I hit a little bit, I did shiver, I think. I don't remember exactly which car, and I spin with my car, you know. So it's a shame. The track is very dirty outside. As soon as you go out of the line, you get loose, and it's impossible to touch the brake. So it was my case. I was not able to touch the brake. It was hard to break down my car.
So we've been watching the replay of that particular incident. It could have been much, much worse, I'm sure.
Absolutely, I was the dangerous one, because if I would have, crashed in Brad, for example, it would have been very bad. But fortunately, I was able to go through.
Thank you, Stefan.
Thank you.
So Stefan Gregoire joins Johnny Parsons Jr., Brad Murphy, and Eddie Cheever as being listed out of the run.
Well, you could see he caught Eddie's right rear with his right rear. Luckily, it wasn't any more severe than that.
And there still is a rather extensive cleanup to be done as we look over onto the backstretch. Jack?
Well, the investigation on Buddy Lazier's mount seems to have identified what the potential problem is. And that is not good news, guys, because they think it might be a broken engine mount.
Boy, that just shows you what the high bank tracks, the tracks that are so fast, put so much strain on them right there.
Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Here's Dr. Henry Bach now, who's come out of the medical center. Can you tell us about Brad Murphy?
Brad Murphy is awake and alert, and he is stable. He has some pain in his right thigh. We suspect he may have a femur fracture on that side. He's going down to the University Medical Center for further tests down there.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jerry.
Well, that is terrific news. We were a little apprehensive considering the length of time they used to take him out. But, of course, the safety team, their whole idea is to take your time and not cause any additional injury to the driver by removing him too quickly. Well, USAC has all of the crews out trying to get the racetrack cleared up as Robbie Gordon continues to circle behind the pace car, hoping that they will pick the pace up of the pace car. We're back with the Indy Racing League, the Las Vegas 500K, still under yellow. Let's go to Jack.
Well, Paul, let's show you what we're talking about as far as wing configuration here. This is what's called a short track wing. All the cars are using it. See this element here? Now, normally this element would have an angle of attack to it, but this is the spare for Scott Sharp's car. See how flat it is? It literally reduces the drag on the car, but it also reduces the downforce. That's the configuration for both the Foyt cars and several other cars. Now, I saw something historic just a couple of minutes ago that happened with A.J. Foyt. A.J. wanted to bring his car in, Scott Sharp, take a gamble and take on fuel and hope that there's more extended cautions. Scott Sharp came back on the radio and said, A.J., I don't think it's a good idea. He explained his reasons why. And all A.J. said is 10-4.
Oh,
That's good. That shows that Texas is trying to work with his driver a little bit, doesn't it?
Oh, I'm not going to say that he's mellowing.
A little bit more explanation while we're under yellow here in Buddy Lazier's car. You hear that his motor mount broke in his engine, but his motor mount is part of the frame. Remember, the engine is part of the frame. So when the engine mount breaks, the frame really broke.
Well, while we continue under the caution here, 159 laps to go with this long cleanup as a result of that three-car incident, Stefan Gregoire and Brad Murphy and Eddie Cheever. This is the Indianapolis 500 on the final lap when Roberto Guerrero spun the red car up into the fence is Alessandro Zampedri. And as a result of this, and you'll see it on a shot coming, the car really grabbed the fence with the nose. Watch this. This is spectacular, if not frightening video. The car flips overhead. The nose gets into the fence. It caused severe trauma to his feet. Here you get a real good idea watching the red car as it goes up into the fence.
Got nowhere to go there.
And so very serious injuries as a result of that. But Gary Gerald, the good news is that he is here at the track and feeling pretty good.
Well, Paul, we're delighted to be able to sit here and spend a moment with Alessandro. It's been such a long time since the end of May, now the middle of September. This is your first time to be out at a racetrack, and you're smiling, and I know you've had devastating injuries to your feet, but yet you've been so positive, and tell us how things are coming along right now.
Well, Gary, thank you, and yeah, it's been very exciting being here. It was the first time not only that I'm going to a race, but that I'm living in Indianapolis. And it's a very nice feeling seeing a lot of friends and fans that they've been so close with me all this time. Yeah, it was tough at the beginning, but now, you know, I'm on the way to recovery, and I'm just looking forward to be healthy again and drive a race car again. And that's all that matters. You know, you have to be strong with your mind as much you have to be working out to get back.
You have all of this apparatus down here on your left foot and leg, and I understand you're going to get rid of a lot of this in about a week's time?
Yeah, Dr. Scheid, my doctor, is going to take it off next week, and hopefully with the next things they're going to put in, I'm going to be able to put weights on that leg too. So the right one is okay, the left one is going to come along, and I'm really hoping to give myself a nice Christmas present to be able to walk by then.
How about race car driving? Is it still in your future? I've heard stories that you want to do it more.
Yes, I want to do it more with MyJack and all the people. We are working hard to get back, and my goal is to be back at Indianapolis 500 next year. And yes, I want to do it again because that's my life. I did it so long. I proved at the Indianapolis 500 that I can be up there when you need to, and that's what I'm going to go for it.
A lot of support following you all the way. We wish you the very best. Thank you, Alessandro.
Thank you very much. Bye, everybody.
Jack?
Well, Gary, that certainly is good news, and there was some good news for Tony Stewart and Larry Curry as well. During that pit stop, Larry, you discovered a pinhole in a tire.
Yeah, we knew that he went through a bunch of debris, and we wanted to play the yellow out. You know, we knew it was going to be long, and we wanted to pit towards the tail end of it.
Well, he's talking to Tony right now. He's monitoring in. That's one of the things when you're doing an interview like this.
10-4. But anyway, so we brought him in, and sure enough, we had a puncture in the right rear, so we dodged one.
Now, you have no choice. You've got to make it in 4 stops, right, because of fuel consumption?
Yeah, I mean, the way our strategy was last night, we have to do 4 stops.
Well, we're going to go back to green in just less than 1 lap, guys.
Well, so that stop was more than just precautionary for all the debris on the track. It was, in fact,
the next time by, it'll be 1 finger.
I think 1 finger is what Larry Curry is telling Tony Stewart there, but I think that was a precautionary on purpose. Man, you just look at all the debris that was on that track. These guys had to go through it. These tires don't have tubes in them. They're also very, very thin tires, so they're easy to puncture.
Well, now you look from Tony Stewart's position back 11th is his position in the field now. But
Tony, you can go ahead and get yourself ready to go, buddy. You put it in whatever gear you want. Get it cleaned out, and let's go up. Once you get settled in, let's go up 1 more inch on the boost. +1 on the boost.
Well, they apparently think that that everything is fine in terms of fuel. They're not worried about economy there. We're ready to come back to green. There's the full running order after 45 laps, Jack.
Paul, 45 is the operative number. Remember what the leader said. Derek Walker said they would go to 50 to 55. He's got to hope that there's a full course yellow in the next 5 to 7 laps, or they're going to have to make a green flag stop.
And I think that may be in their future right now. So Stewart with the job of carving up from 11th place. Robbie Gordon leads the field back. Pace car is already off turn 4. Gordon picks up the pace, gets a good restart. As the green comes out, Lyondike chasing him, followed by Mike Groff, Roberto Guerrero, Scott Sharp, and Michel Jourdain Jr. now in 6th place.
I think what happened when we heard Tony Stewart's boost, he says, Larry Curry says, come up 1 inch, shows us the reason he's had those real slow starts. They've had the boost way back on it, just like we thought a little bit earlier. They're really trying to conserve fuel so they can be there at the end. And as we also said, this is last chance, Paul. This is the last race for the turbocharged engines.
The white and blue car is Scott Sharp. That's Michel Jourdain Jr. The other car not a factor in this run at the front of the field. And John Paul Jr., that black car with beautiful yellow flames on the front of the car, is now beginning to close in as well on board Scott Sharp. Well, look at the G-loading. Push him down in the cockpit in the corners. Watch this. That's astonishing.
4 Gs, that's an awful lot. There's very few people, even people that fly airplanes and make sharp turns, don't make over 2.5 Gs. Awesome turn speed.
Going back now to Scott Sharp. Now, let's watch his head movement.
Coming right through the trials there. We're getting ready to set up for turn 1.
Look at him. Look at it push him down.
And remember, there's more sideways than there is going down. Look at him come up and you go back to the back straightaway there.
Now, I'm right. Those are G-forces doing that. That's not him reaching for a pedal as we've seen with other drivers. That's the G-forces putting him down.
It certainly is, Paul. It's pushing him down a whole bunch. That's all there is to it. 4 Gs. If people just could realize how strenuous, you see the brace on the right side of the helmet there. The right side where the helmet leans up against, you have to have that. Drivers can't hold their heads up. The tar between the tires and all the aerodynamics gets so much adhesion, just pitches your head to the right.
All right, as we get ready now to leave Scott Sharp's car, the battle on the circuit, and that white line coming through, that hopefully will tell you when we move in and out of different battles on the course. An addition that we've added for our Indy Racing League coverage. John Paul Jr. is leading a group of Jourdain, Guerrero, Stewart, who is now up to 9th, so he's managed to tick 2 positions off from his 11th starting position, and the leader already has traffic ahead, and Arie Luyendyk in 2nd place is fully cognizant of that. So Robbie Gordon, red, white, and blue car, predominantly blue. There it is on the high side with Luyendyk right behind him and closing. Luyendyk goes down to the low side, looks for position, doesn't do it there.
Robbie's not going to give it up that easy, but I think what I'm seeing, too, is Robbie's a lot more cautious in traffic. We heard that transmission where he said that it was a little bit dangerous out there, but also he's not raced with these guys. He doesn't know them. You know, he doesn't know what their styles, what they're up to. Arie's got some races under his belt with these guys, so Robbie Gordon's got to learn their technique and their style.
It's got to really worry him a lot, Danny, but remember the guy right behind Robbie Gordon, Arie Luyendyk, he has raced with him a whole bunch. They feel good together, I'm sure.
Robbie Gordon was able to get around Buzz Calkins there. Now Luyendyk gets around him. Mike Groff, the white car. Well, there you hear it right from the two-way radio, and that's what they do as a car ricochets off the wall.
I got hit in the head with a couple parts.
Now, one of the things that you said there was, of course, that Robbie Gordon was going to need a yellow to make it in 3 stops. It's pretty timely.
He's got his yellow right now, Danny.
Yeah.
And the good news is that Tice is okay.
I think that's Tice Carlson, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Tice climbing out. Stops. He's only stopping to get everything unplugged from his helmet so he doesn't rip the lines out there.
There was so much dust down there, I bet he was just hoping he would get out of that dust to see where he was, Paul.
Well, it makes you hesitate, too. You see that yellow car. Roberto Guerrero also has one. And take just a moment to make absolutely sure that that's who it is and you get the identity right. Well, looks like Tice is okay as he climbs out, and we go under caution once again here at Las Vegas. Here's a look at the situation.
Oh, he got tapped. They were running out there. They were running side by side, and either he touched him or he got tapped
He got tapped. He got tapped.
They got into another car anyway.
I call that one pretty easy. It's not too hard to do.
So the third caution of the day, that's Dr. Henry Bach, who you met just a few minutes ago, standing right there with him. He gets out and works on the course. Danny, let's look at it.
Let's see who that other car is, if we can.
Can't from that.
On that other shot, all we know is a white car. But
that shows you with all the centrifugal force that you have, with all the G-force that there is going, it takes very little to really set you
they're
in
right
the
there. They just got together. Well, Bobby, you know, it just takes a little nudge, something that you wouldn't even hardly notice, just to get that car a little out of shape and send it on its way. Look at that. They're running very close together. And he just catches him with it on his rear tire, looked like, didn't it?
The car right there, the white car, just came right over and got a hold of Tice Carlson and spun him right out. I just wonder if Tice even knew what happened. It was so sudden, and the cars were so far apart for a while there.
Well, we saw Tice Carlson climb out of the car. They make him climb into the ambulance and go back for an examination just to make sure he's answering all the questions right, and that in fact he is okay, but it certainly appeared that way. You see here too, as we watch the ambulance pull away, you got a glimpse of some people on the back straightaway on the inside of the wall. Because of the nature of the track here, they have all of the pit signaling being done from the back side of the course down on the back straightaway. That's the guys with the board. So the yellow's out with the pits closed at the moment. And one thing we did see was all of the debris that came off of this car as well. So again, the question comes, what will the tire condition of the guys who are running through there be?
Well, some of them, for example, like Robbie Gordon, we're going to expect when the track looks like it's going to open again, they're going to come in and make a pit stop for two reasons. One for fuel, the other one, just like you talked about, Paul, they're going to have to check, make sure that they don't get a little piece of carbon fiber or something in their tires.
Third caution of the day for the Indy Racing League, the Las Vegas 500K.
And there was that radio transmission, too, that he got hit with something in the head. And I don't think that affected him, but sure, if there was that much debris around, it sure could have gone as well over the car as it could have gone under the car or gotten one of those little punctures.
Down to Jack Arute.
We're talking about getting hit in the head for Robbie Gordon. The other concern that Gordon and company have is what did that debris do to the rods, the control rods and the steering mechanism. Now you listen to Derek Walker. He's bringing Robbie Gordon in, looking for his marks. Ari Lyondike is going to pit as well, so it's a 1-2 tandem right now.
Look okay, Dan. Radiators look good.
They've added some front wing to the car. They're changing the wheels. What about you, Gary Gerald?
Making changes on Lyondike as well. We anticipate a move up toward the front wing. They're holding, don't see the move. Now they finally get him clear. Oh, 15 seconds, 15 and a half. A little hesitation with a problem with the back slowed him down just a bit. Jack?
A very quick stop for Robbie Gordon, though, Gary. He was in and out in almost 11 seconds because all they did was add the fuel, change the tires. No problem with the steering mechanism that they could see.
So Robbie Gordon comes out ahead of Ari Lyondike, missing that chance. We'll be back to Las Vegas after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Well, the third caution of the day is still out here at the Indy Racing League Las Vegas 500K. And don't forget, Saturday on ABC Sports, our college football doubleheader begins at noon Eastern with the 9th-ranked Notre Dame taking on number 7 Texas. And then at 3:30 Eastern, Boston College battles 11th-ranked Michigan, or other regional action. And for those of you on the West Coast, Oregon and Washington State at 4 o'clock Pacific. Check your local listings for your game on your ABC station and the games available from your cable operator Saturday on ABC Sports. We'll go down to the pits again. Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, we've got a little bit of a problem with your leader one more time. Now, when you come into the pits, you see the lollipop board that comes down. It always says reset the meter. There's a little button on the dashboard that the driver has to do to reset the fuel metering. Now what that does is tells the driver how many gallons of fuel are left in the cockpit between fuel stops. That reset button did not reset the dash. So Robbie Gordon is driving without that information right now. No real big problem because the telemetry on board will relay the information back to the Valvoline pits. But here is the problem now with fuel consumption so critical to make it in 3 stops. They're going to have to show by radio, and everybody else can listen in, exactly what their fuel consumption is, and it could get dicey down to the end of the race. Gary?
Minor problems for Ari Luyendyk relating to radio communication. Buddy Lindblom says it's very scratchy. It's not critical at this point. It is, however, a concern. They made one suspension change around the wings on his last pit stop. Now, there was speculation as to whether or not Mike Groff may have been involved in contact. We talked with the crew, and they say he has told us absolutely nothing. And then they laughed and said, but remember at Loudon, he didn't tell us on the radio that he'd been involved in a contact incident. So as far as they know, everything's clean and smooth. Paul?
All right, well, we're under the caution now, and with the stops, John Paul Jr. in the 18 car has taken the lead of the race. Stewart is in second, followed by Gordon. Mark Dismore, that's the other Menard car, is now in fourth. Ari Luyendyk back in fifth with his pit stop. Then Richie Hearn, Stan Waddles, Mike Groff, Scott Sharp, and Michel Jourdain Jr. That's the top 10. You see them all right there.
They should be coming back to a green flag this time, Paul.
Pace car has already moved down onto the pit road, and look at this. As John Paul Jr. moves high, Stewart tries to get him. Other cars, Johnny Unser, not a factor in the battle at the front of the field. John Paul Jr. pulls away. Stewart darts down to the inside. John Paul Jr. grabs a middle lane and pulls away from Stewart.
Now, often Stewart will back off a little bit like that because of the dirty air that John Paul was making.
I don't think Tony Stewart likes to back off much, though.
Yeah, but what's surprising me is 3 times we've seen him now with an opportunity on a restart, and we haven't really seen that car come surging forward like one might expect.
No, but I think that was a better restart, and maybe these guys, just the way the car in front of him is starting, and if he has to back off of it, it takes it longer to spool up. Look at him go by there. He
and
just
behind him, though, is Robbie Gordon, who's now closing.
You know, another interesting point is that John Paul Jr. also has a Menard engine.
Not the Menard team, but the Menard motor, certainly.
Robbie Gordon. At this particular race, I think they're all the iron blocks too, Paul, so they're all kind of even instead of some of them having the aluminums in the Menards.
Well, I'm under the impression that John Menard's team itself is running with the aluminum block.
They've been running both ways on that. I think they've got the aluminum in for the race, but in practice and all that they would run the irons because they've had a little bit of problem with the aluminum block.
Richie Hearn with Ari Luyendyk working on him. It's a battle for fifth.
1.6, Ari, 1.6.
And that's Derek Walker giving the separation back to Ari Luyendyk. Apparently they don't seem to be concerned about Dismore, who's in there in fourth place, separating Gordon and Luyendyk. Luyendyk now works on Dismore.
Bobby, I still think the big factor in this race is still going to be traffic.
And Hearn begins to close on Luyendyk. Hearn looks to the inside. And Hearn passes Luyendyk, picks up fifth.
Now remember, sometimes when you see passes like that, it's nothing more than turning the boost up a little bit or shifting the gear between the race gear and the cruise gear.
Luyendyk all the way down the flat to try and get past. Loses some speed. Hearn still in behind him.
But then he protected his position, and Hearn had to lift a little bit in there. I'm telling you, Bobby, I think the traffic, they're so affected by what the car in front of them is doing in the corner. Not just from the air, but whether they have to back off or not. Look at this. Look at this, Hearn.
Coming up behind Ari Luyendyk, trying to get him again.
He's not going high enough to get around him, though.
Yeah, Ari Luyendyk seen that move before.
Running speeds upwards of 219 miles an hour in this battle. And Scott Sharp beginning to close in, too, on the battle between Hearn and Lyondike.
Now those
Back up to the front.
Those are fast speeds for this time of the race, Paul.
Look at this. Tony Stewart diving down low. Tried to go low under John Paul. What happens, too, when you get in a battle like what we're seeing with Lyondike, that actually slows the car up so the car behind him is going to have a little cleaner shot to get to him.
Riding on board with Tony Stewart. We're just going to ride here as he chases the leader. Well, look at all the... that looks mostly to be tire debris that we're seeing catch the screen in the corners there, like it's just peeling right off the tire and onto the lens.
But there's also an awful lot of dirt. This track is dirty. It's the first race it's ever had, and just now getting clean between the tires. And you got to remember, the sun is really beating on the racetrack. That makes it hard on the tires.
And Bobby, you saw that car that went up high there, right in front, going up the dust. All of that stuff, all that dirt and everything. That lens is grabbing all of it.
Going to wear our camera out, I'm afraid, before this race is over.
It'll be fine. John Paul Jr. now with Tony Stewart attacking him, trying to move to the inside, battle for the lead.
John
Las
Paul
Vegas 500K, the Indy Racing League, can't do it.
John Paul just keeps his leg in it right in the middle of the corner. He's going to make Tony earn it.
And one thing interesting, John Paul Jr.'s on Goodyears, and Tony Stewart's on Firestone.
So the battle right now is at the front of the field. The only other contest going on is Ari Lyondike still has Reggie Hearn right behind him and working him. And a little further back, Eliseo Salazar is now trying to close on Roberto Guerrero for 10th, but the key battle is right here at the front of the field. So we'll keep track of the run for the lead here. Let's go down to Gary Terrell.
Paul, here's our fourth driver we've talked to, released from the safety center. It's rookie Tice Carlson. Tice, what happened?
I was passing the lap car, and I came off of 2, and I don't know if he had a push or what, but we just got together coming off of 2, and we got into the wall. It wasn't his fault. He didn't mean to hit me.
And who is that you're talking about?
It was a blue and white car. There are 3 or 4 teams like that out here, so I'm not going to mention any names. We thought we had a good run going today. Owen Snyder was crew chiefing for us in the Harris Las Vegas Discount Golf and Tennis car, and we went back a little bit. We had a little bit of push. We changed tires, put a different set of tires on, got that really taken care of, and we're going back forward, but it just wasn't our day. We'll be back. We'll put a lot of sponsorship together and come back.
Thanks, Tice.
Well, at the front of the field, it's still John Paul Jr. Look at this. This is back just a little bit further. Nice battle. Robbie Gordon, Mark Dismore, Ari Lyondike, Richie Hearn, all 4 of them battling for 3rd place.
These guys are really going to be tired if they race like this for this entire race. This track is really hard on drivers. You think about pulling 4 Gs 2 times every lap for 300 miles, really hard on the driver.
There are the 4. Gordon, Dismore, Lyondike, Hearn. Lyondike closes a bit on Dismore. And we got a good example when we saw Scott Sharp's onboard camera about what the G-loading is doing, pushing these guys down into the cockpit. The massive Gs when they get into the corner jacker route.
Well, not only massive Gs, but consider that visibility. You're looking through a driver's lens right now off a Simpson helmet. See how clear it is at the start of the race?
Another car into the wall. It looks to be Stewart.
Boy, that's the color scheme from
Tony Stewart.
Tony Stewart. Whoa.
So there is part of John Menard's hope going away. Now he has Mark Dismore, who is going to move up to 3rd place as a result of this, the 2nd place car getting in contact with the wall. Oh, what a terrible disappointment.
And especially he was racing for the lead. Looked like they had a good race going.
Oh, he's sitting there moving around. I don't think there's anything wrong because the wreck didn't look like it was that bad, but by the same token, he's one bad feeling boy right now.
Remember Tony Stewart and his dominant moves at the race at Loudon, the New England race? Boy. And then suddenly mechanical ills take him out of that run. Now an accident takes him out of the fight here as he battles for the lead with John Paul Jr. And so the caution comes out again. They're helping him out, moving slow, but I think, again, that's just a matter, well, he's asking for a little help.
Yeah, he might have something wrong with his feet. You know, these cars are awfully tight inside. I know when you see Tice Carlson get out, you wonder as big as he is, but the cars, end up getting shimmed right down to the drivers.
You know, Bill Simpson and the other uniform manufacturers make the uniform with those epaulets so they can be lifted, so you can actually help a driver out of the car.
He's got something wrong with his feet there, Paul.
Let's hope he's all right. Let's take a look at how this occurred. We're looking from the onboard camera and see if we can figure anything out at all, Danny and Bobby.
Okay, he's going into turn one there, Bobby.
There's nobody supposed to be in front of him.
He lifted off just a little bit. He just lost it.
Something could have broken on that car, Danny. That was an awful fast spin. I mean, he didn't just do a real slow lose on that one, I promise.
No, that thing jumped around on him real fast.
Well, they're being very careful with Tony Stewart as they lift him out of the car. Let's go back to the pitch. Jack Arute, you were telling us, and then we got interrupted.
Well, you don't like to hear that about Tony Stewart. He was communicating by radio to Larry Curry, but he was yelling, so we couldn't really determine just exactly if he does have a foot problem. You're looking, as we said, through a typical visor at the start of the race. Now we're going to remove it, and here's what the visors look like at about this point in the race. Now, what causes all of this? You were talking about the tire pieces coming up, but all the drivers are reporting that the grit, the sand from the desert here, comes up and actually pits these plastic visors. Now, these visors are strong enough to withstand a bullet shot at it, but it still will pit. Now, what the people in the helmet manufacturers, and Simpson in particular, have done is they manufactured for this race special tearaways that were several thousandths thicker. The reason, thinking that if the sand came up and pitted the tearaways, a driver could then tear one away and have clear view.
All right, well, now the leader, John Paul Jr., comes into the pits under this yellow for Tony Stewart's accident. Sticker tires on the back, sticker tires on the front.
Which means new tires. Good time to do it, though, Paul, while you're under a yellow flag.
Spins the tires, and the 18 Earl supply car moves back into the fight. Robbie Gordon picks up the lead of the race. Ari Lyondike moves into second. Mark Dismore to third. And Richie Hearn into fourth. There's your leader. We'll be back with more from Las Vegas after this.
The Indy Racing League at Las Vegas. This ABC Sports exclusive brought to you by Goodyear, #1 in tires. True Value, official hardware store of IRL and garages everywhere. And Pennzoil Motor Oil, first to fully achieve the tougher 1997 GF2 performance standard.
We are back at the Indy Racing League, Las Vegas 500K, and still under caution. This one involving the second-place car of Tony Stewart getting against the wall. The souped-up trucks will hit the track in Martinsville for the first time at this distance. The NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series Haynes 250. That's Saturday at 4 o'clock Eastern. And then Dale Earnhardt takes to the track to try and make it 2 in a row in the Martinsville race, the NASCAR Haynes 500. Sunday at 12:40 Eastern, the fast-paced NASCAR excitement next weekend and only on ESPN. Well, let's go back and take a look at the onboard camera once again of Tony Stewart. We'll put it in slow motion this time, and perhaps Danny and Bobby, we can get a better idea of what happened to him. Looked like he just lost it quickly. Now, there has been a lot of sand blowing over the wall down in the first and second turn here. Maybe that's a factor.
Usually,
I don't know.
Paul, usually sand will let you break away fast, or slow, I'm sorry. Let's watch this, and because Danny and I both think that he broke away awfully fast. Now, here he goes into #1 turn. Now, just about now, he should start getting in trouble. Now, just look at that.
See his hands come around.
That's very slow motion, and you just don't turn the steering wheel that fast unless something broke. Is that what you think, Dan?
Yeah, well, did you see his head jump up there, too? But, you know, something the USAC officials told me earlier, that because it's a new track, because of where we are, the desert, everything, that they've been having quite a few punctures, but caused by little rocks and stuff like that. And he get the load in there.
Well, his hands were totally steady. Gary Gerald, you talked with Larry Curry about
that. And he saw the first set of replays on his monitor down here and had radio conversation, and he says, we don't know. We've had no reports from Tony that the car was ever loose. It had a push, which is what they wanted. He liked the balance of the car. He says, I just know it came around real fast. I suspect that either something broke or we cut a tire.
The most likely scenario, obviously, Gary, would be that they just cut a tire. It takes a little rock to go through it, and then you just can't drive it. The rear end of the car, the two rear wheels are hooked up together with each other. So if you lose the air pressure on one side, you're not only going to lose your side fight, but the other one's going to keep driving and really get the car going cattywampus.
Well, I was watching his hands very carefully during the slow-mo, and they were steady until suddenly the back end was gone, and then he tried to grab it and couldn't. So the cleanup continues here at the Indy Racing League Las Vegas 500K. There is the way that they will line up when we're ready to come back to the green flag once they have all the dirt and dust off of the track. Well, there's John Menard's hope. It's Mark Dismore, the other car in the team, now that Tony Stewart is out, as he peels off and onto the pit road. Mark, of course, has not yet won in the IRL, had a devastating crash several years ago at Indianapolis during practice for the 500. And anybody that has anything to do with go-karting will know the name. He's got a great go-kart shop just outside of Indianapolis.
And he's, of course, pitting about as late as you can because they're given the one finger to go, one lap to go. So he's obviously coming in to top that thing up and see if they can go a long run.
Gary Gerald.
Yeah, that's the exact strategy, Danny. They're having a little problem for a moment, I thought, at the right front. Everything appears to be okay. They wait to clear a hose. One of the Scandia cars pulls in front of him, and now Dismore just smoothly rolls back out to pit road.
So we should see a green flag very quickly here. A little further back is in fifth position, Michel Jourdain. There he is. The colors of Mexico on that car. The 22 machine, and he, of course, is the nephew of Bernard Jourdain, who has raced these cars in the past, and he begins to pick the throttle up from fifth place as we're ready to go green. Robbie Gordon gets a good lead on the field. Look back at second place. We're at the Indy Racing League Las Vegas 500K. As the fight is at the front of the field, Robbie Gordon is the leader of the race. This is a battle between Richie Hearn and Michel Jourdain, and it has now moved forward to a battle for third place.
And Michel Jourdain got him around the outside, had a great restart, high all the way around.
That's Arie Luyendyk that sits just ahead of Michel Jourdain. Richie Hearn sitting just behind him in the yellow and black car. Arie Luyendyk is second. Robbie Gordon, and there you get an idea of some of the sand that tends to blow across the track as it blows across the front of our cameras. Over on the backstretch now. Robbie Gordon was the leader at the line by 1.3 seconds last time by. Got a good restart, was able to pull away. There goes Gordon, Luyendyk, and now Hearn tries to make a move on Jourdain.
Let's also keep in mind that the sand is a little bit hard on these tires.
Hearn gets around Jourdain.
Wears the tires out a lot quicker. When you get down to number 1-2 turn where the wind has been blowing the sand out on the track, that's just like sandpaper taking the rubber off.
And it looks like this whole group is catching Robbie Gordon. Second, third, and fourth spot are closing in. He got a great restart, Robbie did, but this group has caught him back up.
Yeah,
look at Arie Luyendyk.
Last time across the line, Gordon was 0.8 of a second. This time, 0.3, and there they are. They're right there with him.
Just look at the different lines, the different drivers are taking between Robbie and Arie. You can see a total different concept there.
Watching the leader, Jack Arute.
Well, Robbie Gordon is conserving fuel right now and is running down on boost purposefully. According to Derek Walker, what they're trying to do is run this window now and stretch this segment. So expect Robbie Gordon not to be running as fast as he was maybe 20 laps ago.
Even to the point of giving up the lead, Jack?
Yeah, they're not concerned about that, Paul. In fact, you know Derek, he's always saying, be patient, a lot of racing to go. In fact, before the drop of the green, he said, expect Arie to close on you, expect Arie to try and pass.
Well, not just Arie. Expect Richie Hearn to be there because Hearn just tried to make a move on the low side of Arie Luyendyk. It didn't work for him that time, but Hearn is there and very racing.
Luyendyk was doing the same thing when Robbie was off on his power, which they have to be in order to make the pit stops come out right sometimes. Luyendyk did the same thing. Now what they can do, just so everybody knows, if Luyendyk wants to go by Robbie Gordon right now, he decides on the back straightaway, hypothetically, turns his boost up and zaps him down the front straightaway, or whichever one it is. Or, remember, they have 2 gears to do this in.
Bobby Richie Hearn just passed Luyendyk.
He just blew past him.
For second spot.
Moves into second and begins now to charge on the leader of the race, Robbie Gordon.
And remember, there's only one lap that's really important to lead, and that's the last lap. That's the only one that pays.
And still 106 laps to go. 94 laps complete, 200. I think my math worked there. Look at this, Hearn. Driving for John Della Penna, right up, battling with Robbie Gordon.
Now, Hearn could easily be running in his race gear, whereas Robbie could be running in what we kind of call the overdrive gear to save fuel. Or, like right now, it looks like they're both about the same.
What would be the difference in those two, Bobby?
About 10 hundredths.
You're doing good.
Derek Walker talking with Robbie Gordon. Keep the radios open.
Derek may not want to might not care about giving up that lead, but I'm sure Robbie still likes to stay out in front.
But of course, Danny, as we know, it's Derek's job to sit there and run this thing. He's the captain. Tells Robbie what to do. That doesn't always mean he does it, though, right?
No, Derek gave me orders like that for many years, and he won me an Indianapolis 500 and a championship.
Not too bad.
You can't complain.
What did he say when you were spinning? Save it, save it, save it?
He wasn't talking then. He didn't know it was me when I was spinning.
And were you sheepish when you reported the reason for the yellow?
I called back, and he said that I sounded kind of normal, except my voice was a couple octaves higher.
Well, let's find out the condition of Tony Stewart. Gary Gerald?
Dr. Henry Bach, what can you tell us about Tony Stewart?
Yes, Tony Stewart's in good condition. He's awake and alert and stable. Came in complaining of some left shoulder pain and some left back pain. He's going down to the University Medical Center for some x-rays.
Thank you, Henry.
Richie Hearn working on Robbie Gordon.
Boy,
The
that's
battle for the
close.
lead almost touched him a second ago.
That's too close for comfort. At this kind of speed, that was less than an inch apart, it looked to me like, between the tires touching. That's what we've seen too many times up today, Paul.
If this can help predict something, Richie Hearn on lap 53 ran the fastest lap of the race at 219.2 miles an hour. So that's the fastest car in the field, in second place right now behind Robbie Gordon.
Robbie's running just low enough in the corner to make it really hard on Richie.
Now will Gordon come back? They were both moving around Eliseo Salazar, and once Richie was able to grab it, he took off.
He's running in a lot cleaner air. Robbie has faded back a little bit because running in the dirty air is just really difficult.
Well, remember, too, Jack's precaution. Lyondike now closes on Gordon. Battle for second. And Lyondike's got him. Now, the question becomes, we're not hearing any radio traffic. Difficult to understand what Robbie Gordon's saying.
That was Derek talking, but I couldn't hear what he told him to do.
I think Robbie made
the balance. I got a little bit of a loose entry going into
a loose entry going into four.
A loose entry, just so everybody knows, that means your rear end comes out just a little bit, or is trying to.
Larry Lyondike relinquishes the lead to Richie Hearn. Robbie Gordon's been working with him. Now we take a look at the leader of the race, Hearn, and of course that is Dismore, who has fallen back to 9th place as Richie Hearn begins to overhaul the field, and there are 8 cars on the lead lap. So Richie Hearn, now the leader here at Las Vegas, as the run continues with the IRL. We'll be back after this message. We're under caution, and that is Ari Lyondike. Running in second place, caught the wall by himself, only car in the accident. Obviously, as he signals the crowd, he is, in fact, okay. But Ari Lyondike from second out of the run, and again, the yellow flies here. Richie Hearn, the leader. That brings Robbie Gordon up to second place. Michel Jourdain to third, Scott Sharp to fourth, and Michele Alboreto, who, remember, won his first Formula One race here in Las Vegas when they raced over on the strip here. Will he see his first IRL win here today? Well, he's certainly in position to do so. Damaged car, pretty heavily damaged. I guess they'll remember that these cars all become at very best show cars after this, because the IRL does have their new chassis ready for the next race at Walt Disney World when we come back in January.
leaking that fluid all over the track there. They're going to have to dry all that up.
So in our cautions of the day, as we watch Richie Hearn with Roberto Guerrero right behind him, heading down into the pits, and Jack Arud waits for him.
And Richie Hearns, his car owner, John Della Pena, said to him, Della Pena said, hey, you're the fastest thing on the racetrack, but right now, don't be fast. Hit the marks. Adhere to the 80-mile-an-hour speed limit on pit road. Robbie Gordon on the top of the screen, also in here on the pits. And Richie Hearn going to work. Robbie Gordon hits his marks, and his crew will go to work. Now, for Hearn, they're going to clean out the radiators, and he's off and away. In the meantime, work continues on Robbie Gordon's car. They're filling it up with fuel. This will give Hearn the advantage, at least on the stop. They drop the jacks, and Robbie is very slow getting it back into gear, but he's back out as well.
As we just passed over the halfway a few laps ago, now with 91 laps to go, we're on our 5th yellow of the day. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
We come back to Las Vegas, and on the wrong side of the pit wall, we find John Paul Jr. He is retired, and I understand it was a wheel bearing problem on the right front. Is that correct, John?
Yeah, the wheel bearing faded. Going through 3 and 4, all of a sudden it got really way up in the gray, and I was already running high up there. I thought I got up in the marbles, but it was just the wheel bearing. They're trying to replace it now. Maybe we'll get back out there and try and get some points.
You're running a 93 chassis with the old Buick stock block. You're leading this race. What did it feel like to be back leading an IndyCar event?
Well, I thought I'd forgotten how to win races, but we won one a couple weeks ago in Mosport, and, you know, we're in the groove. The car was just phenomenal. Running high line, full tank, low tank, it was just absolutely on rails. It didn't seem to make a difference. You know, it's just unfortunate. We would have liked to win one for Buick and for my family and for me and the team, but, you know, we're just trying to cruise and collect.
Okay, thank you, John. Paul?
Well, look at the flags here. Give you some idea of the winds in the desert here on the northeast edge of Las Vegas that are blowing over this track. We'll be coming back for the green right after this. Well, we're about a half a lap from the green flag. Here is the running order at the conclusion of 114 laps. Hearn, Gordon, Michele Alvaretto up to 3rd, Michel Jourdain with a great run going, and Scott Sharp in 5th. We'll look all the way down through the field. Look at that long list of guys out, and some pretty significant names there. Ari Lyondike, Tony Stewart, green flag comes out. We're running again with the IRL, the Las Vegas 500K. There's the leader, and he does get away from Robbie Gordon on the restart. Robbie Gordon's having to battle with Guerrero. Guerrero is in 9th place, lap down.
Guerrero taking up really high right there.
Yeah, I think he got up there, Bobby. He looked like he thought, maybe I don't want to go stay right up here. We might get in an incident. So he backed off, it looked like a little bit.
That Ferrari red car with the black wing. Just back is Alvaretto. John Ford now with Alvaretto, 3rd place. That's Gordon just ahead. Boy, great run for Michele. 18th to 3rd.
Good camera shot. You can look at his helmet, Paul, just get buried over on the right-hand side as he goes into turns. You just tell him to come loose and then go right in there and just push him on it really hard right there.
Front of the field being very careful. Nobody in contest right now. Richie Hearn is the leader here in Las Vegas. Well, and just as we come back to you, Stan Waddles catches the wall, slides across the start-finish line, and to a stop. just beyond the start finish, the 30 car, the Spirit of San Antonio there. And that slows the field again. Richie Hearn was the leader. During the time we were away, no one was in challenge at the front of the field at all. So they'll go to yellow with Richie Hearn as the lead, then Robbie Gordon and Michele Alboreto, the top three. Let's go down to Gary Gerald.
Well, it's become an all too familiar path over here to the medical center. Ari Leyendyk, the last man to walk out. Now, Ari, we're a little bit in the dark as to what happened. Can you enlighten us?
Well, everything was going, smooth. The car was pushing really bad, but I was just holding my own. But I had a little bit of a vibration in the car, and I said to the crew that I was really wearing out my front tires because the car was pushing so bad. And the vibration that I thought that came from that might have been something in the rear, because going into turn one, something just let go in the rear. It was either the right rear bearing, drive shaft, or the tire blew. But I'm not sure if it's the right rear bearing or the tire, but something just let go, and from then on I was a passenger. But I was very fortunate to hit the way I did and to be able to just to get out of the car and come out of there without a scratch. So.
How about the wind conditions today? How much of a factor has that been? Because I don't think it's been this windy all weekend in practice or qualifying.
No, this is really windy out here. It really affects the cars. The cars are moving around a lot. A lot of people are having trouble with push coming off of turn 4 because the wind pushes you out towards that. And probably a good idea would be to start this race at 10 in the morning, because in the afternoon the winds always pick up here, and today is an example of that.
Thank you, Ari.
Okay, thanks.
Well, our sixth yellow of the day as they work with Stan Waddles. The USAC safety crew, I'm sure, working a great deal more than they would like to today. We'll look at that. Here it is from a camera on top of the wall, turn 4. Whoa, just straight up. Hard hit.
Right front tire had to let go on
Broke
that
our
one.
camera.
Huh? Broke our camera. That's the worst thing of all, I
More
guess.
important that he's not hurt. We're
But
gonna
if you
keep
notice,
track
as
of
he
that.
was going through the turn, that's in the trioval where we're sitting, and obviously something on the right front just let go.
Bobby, it looks like almost the car moves a little bit at the back, and he kind of corrects it and gets up in the gray. Just watch the back. Watch in here. He sees, looks like he slides just a hair there and just gets up in the gray, and he can't do anything then.
And it just started from the bottom. It just didn't have any adhesion from the white line out. There's something on the right front just wasn't holding there.
And once you get up into that gray, that's all you can do.
There's nothing.
You're just a passenger, as Ari Leyendyk said.
The collar that they put on the driver's neck generally is precautionary before they take him out of the car. 126 laps complete. We're under the 6th caution of the day. We'll be back.
The Racing League at Las Vegas. This ABC Sports exclusive brought to you by True Value, official hardware store of IRL and garages everywhere. The Nicoderm CQ patch. You bring a commitment. Nicoderm CQ brings the rest. And Oldsmobile and your local Oldsmobile retailers.
Well, the yellow is still out, a sight that we have seen far too often today. They still work at the car very carefully to get Stan Waddles out of the car. And they're going to put him on the backboard. They always do that. In fact, it's a specially designed backboard, doing some cutting over on the right side of the car so that he will clear away quite freely. And that backboard was designed at the Speedway, as a matter of fact, to try and help get it down behind the driver and allow him to come straight up out of the car without any further injury. Remember the old days of racing? Bobby, you probably remember when they used to just run over the car, grab you and yank you out of the car, and if your leg wasn't broken, it sure was when you,
That's
you
right.
hit the dash coming out.
Something came out of the car. Unfortunately, not everything.
And, of course, many of these guys are the same crews that work at the Indianapolis 500 with extensive experience. Jack Gilmore, Bill Nolan, they've been working for years on this. Well, Richie Hearn is the leader. We've had a lot of long yellows today, Jack.
Well, Paul, remember when Gary was talking to Ari Leyendyk, he talked about the wind. You can see it's picked up pretty significantly down here. It's interesting that what was happening to Richie Hearn is when they got out in clear air, they would upshift to the 6th gear. Now, normally that's what we call the cruising gear. Well, it would create problems in the wind. So he was talking back and forth during this caution saying, I don't feel real comfortable in the 6th gear because it seems to affect the wind. It seems to exacerbate it, make it worse. They said, well, you have to go back to 5th and run in 5th. Likewise for Robbie Gordon. Initially in the beginning of this race, he was always complaining about a little bit of a loose condition. The wind has changed down here almost 180 degrees. Now all of a sudden Robbie Gordon is saying, I'm a little pushy. The light bulb went on in his head and he said, you know what? I bet you it's the wind.
It's amazing how at the kind of speeds they're running well above 200 miles an hour, how the wind in fact does affect a car. Bobby Unser and Danny Sullivan have said it many a time. They are still working with Stan Waddell's car, and as we've already indicated to you, this is the 6th caution of the day, and so now we run head-on with one of those problems of network television. Look at them using the jaws of light. Of course, they don't care anymore, do they?
Well, the car's destroyed, so what they're really trying to do is look after the safety of the driver. They want to get him out of there as easy as they can, so sometimes it's better just to cut a piece of the car away or cut it open up so they can just pull him out easily.
But the problem that this unfortunately creates for us, and I got to tell you, we feel terrible about this, is we are running out of time. In just a few minutes, we are going to have to go off the air and leave this race. We're going to give you the running order after 129 laps. Don't throw that at the TV just yet. And we will come back during World News Sunday. We will give you the results of the race. Also, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network with Bob Jenkins is here, and if you can tune over to radio, they can help you. If you have a computer, the website is brickyard.com, and they have the scoring up there. I can't tell you how badly we feel and how much we apologize, but the race was projected to be over right about this time, and it still has 69 laps to go. So even with a lot of room allotted for it, we do have to honor obligations to network affiliates, their local news operations, and we do feel badly.
One other thing I just want to mention, Paul, is when we go by and we see what looks like an empty grandstand up there, it's not empty. It's a brand new grandstand that hasn't been finished yet. The rest of it, just look at the awesome crowd.
Yeah, something should be said for this facility here. It is marvelous. When they're done, it'll probably be over $200 million to build. It is not nearly complete. What you're looking at is just part of it. That crowd, by the way, is estimated at 60,000 people. There's a drag strip here. There is, you name a form of racing, and they've got a race course here. And beautiful, beautiful facilities. Richie Klein and the gang done a marvelous job putting this thing together. And then added to all that, in this week they've been building the track literally as we've been working, and Kevin Forbes of the Indianapolis Speedway has done a marvelous job helping us get a broadcast booth here. Too bad we can't use it to the end. And aided by our own crew of Bob Simon, Rick Okulski, and Bob Schless, Jim Licata, all doing above and beyond to make sure that this facility was here and ready for broadcast as well as ready for a crowd. We hope Stan Waddell's report is okay. We hope that this race goes without yellow to the end, but it has been an interesting track to watch racing on, very wide, allowing for a lot of grooves.
They've been doing some great racing here, a lot of passing. Unfortunately, we've had 6 yellows.
It's been a good race, though, and it's going to be a good race for a lot of the fans. It's just sad that we can't deal with TV.
So there is Richie Hearn driving for John Della Penna, who may be seeing his first day in victory, but with the 68 laps to go, the guys behind him like Robbie Gordon and Michele Alboreto, who, remember, won here in the Formula One, his first Formula One, and Scott Sharp and Michel Jourdain. Be sure to stay tuned. We will give you an update during ABC World News Sunday.
Good evening. Residents in the northeast part of the valley have been accustomed to hearing roaring engines for years, but fighter jets from Nellis weren't the ones making noise today. Instead, it was the Indycars who are ringing people's eardrums, the first ever Las Vegas 500K.
Those cars. There's your front row. Ari Lyondike on the pole.
Shortly after 1 p.m., racing history in the valley was made as the green flag dropped for the start of the Las Vegas 500K. Ari Lyondike blasted ahead of the field early, establishing the type of pace that most expected. Fast.
Gordon is getting a little bit of a draft.
But just 9 laps into the race, Johnny Parsons slides into the wall on turn 4. But it would be turns 1 and 2 that would provide the most action during the day. Around lap 29, a 3-car pileup sends Brad Murphy to the hospital with a broken hip.
Whoa, car into the wall. Two of them, big hit.
Just 30 laps into the race, 4 drivers were already watching from the pits, but really, race teams weren't surprised about the early outings.
Every race is different. This is a great place to be racing at. It's very dusty, unfortunately, so if you get offline, it gets a bit slippery, but not at all. This is racing. This is the most difficult racing in the world, and that's part of the game.
The racing continued with the likes of Robbie Gordon, Tony Stewart, and Lyondike keeping ahead of the pack. But then Stewart crashed into the wall, and moments later, Lyondike followed.
But Ari Lyondike from second out of the run. And again, the yellow flies here. Richie Hearn, the lead.
Shortly after the wreck, Ari blamed not the track, but instead the conditions.
Probably a good idea would be to start this race at 10 in the morning, because in the afternoon the winds always pick up here, and today is an example of that.
The winds continued to create havoc on the track, shattering the pace of the race with wrecks after wrecks after wrecks, until finally the race itself had to be stopped.
Red flag, red flag.
After a brief delay, they restarted the race, and at last, after 9 cautions, Richie Hearn puts the pedal to the metal and outlasts the rest of the field to capture the checkered flag.
For John Della Penna. Michelle Jourdain comes home in second. Mike Groff is...
Well, of course, today was a racing first for Las Vegas. News 13's Ron Futrell has been at the track all week long. And Ron, first off, your thoughts on the race?
Well, Mario, first of all, 67,000 fans out here watching this race, an incredible crowd, an incredible event. Certainly it was tough and rough out there at times for some of the drivers. Tony Stewart admitted to UMC it looks like a broken collarbone. Brad Murphy admitted to UMC with a broken femur. At the UMC Trauma Center, Stan Waddles, Mark Dismore, and Johnny O'Connell looks like they're going to be okay. 2 of those drivers are going to get CAT scans and see what they're like. Johnny O'Connell was the incredible thing. He went over on the top right in the main stretch. He was okay. Didn't have to be treated. He was just released. Joining us now, the winner of the race, Richie Hearn. Congratulations on winning this thing out there. It was tough out there, wasn't it, at times for you guys?
Yeah, it was quite a battlefield. Unfortunately, we had a good car. We stayed out of the trouble. A little luck on our side, but man, there were flying debris all over the place.
How did it feel to win this thing? Now, you did real well. You had 2:22 when we were back here during the testing session in July. You know this track.
Well, it feels really good. It's a team effort, and all year long we've run strong. We haven't quite put it together at the end, and it really feels good to end the 96th year on a high note like this.
Team owner is also here, John De La Penna. If you can go ahead and step in for a moment here. You got to be excited about this guy winning this race, your final race in the IRL.
Yeah, we won at least a race every year we've been together, and I was a little concerned about this year we'd go out without a win, but we pulled it off. It's great.
Any chance, Richie, you'll be coming back here racing in the future, perhaps with kart, now that you're going into that series?
Yeah, I'm sure you'll see me back. It's it's an incredible facility, and I don't think any driver is complete without racing here.
All right, guys, thank you very much. Congratulations. You mentioned a team effort. You guys did it today. All right, Mario, back to you in the studio. Great day out here for racing.
All right, Ron, thank you very much.